Hi, I'm Candice Brown and today we are going to be making my chocolate and cumin babka in the Gozney Dome. It is spectacular. Well, it's just bread, my favourite thing, an enriched dough. When we say enriched, it's because it's got egg and butter in it and it's just lovely and stringy. The first thing we're going to do is warm the milk to what my nan used to call blood temperature. If you put your finger in the milk, it's the same temperature as your blood, so you can't really feel it. And it's just whole milk, works best in all honesty. And we're just going to put it into the mouth of the dome. And we don't want the milk to boil. Yeast is very temperamental. Things kill it. And one of the things that kill yeast is heat. Oh, lovely. We're going to pour it back into here because the residual heat of the pan, that's all I'm going to say now forever, residual, might keep heating the milk up and we don't want that to happen. Salt can kill it, cold can kill it. It's just really fussy, so you need to look after it. This is easy yeast, the stuff you might get in a tin. You want to sprinkle this over the top of our milk. As the yeast starts to activate, we're going to get a nice little foamy head. Put that aside for a few minutes while we get the rest of the ingredients on the go. So we're going to start with our dough now. I have got strong bread flour here. Strong bread flour makes for a really nice texture of bread. We've got butter and we've got an egg. So it's rich and it's lovely and it's stringy and pulley apart. And you can sieve the flour if you like. However, I don't often sieve things because it's a bit boring. I've got a little bit of golden castle sugar. I'm going to pop that on one side of the bowl, a little bit of salt onto the other. And in our little hole in the middle, we're going to crack an egg, okay? Get it moving, get it coming together ever so slightly, and then just in a gentle steady stream pour in your warmed milk yeast concoction. Don't add it all in at once. Flour does react differently to the environment as well, so sometimes it will take more liquid, sometimes it will take less, but always remember you can add more liquid but you can't take it out. That is actual brain science there. As soon as it's one big kind of lump of dough together, we're going to add in our butter bit by bit. Now it's really important the butter is soft because that way it's going to get fully incorporated into the dough. That's all come together and it's leaving the bowl nice and clean. Add that in bit by bit. If the butter's cold, it's not going to incorporate fully. You don't want lumps of butter throughout the dough. So now the butter's all incorporated, you want to leave that mixing for about 4 to 5 minutes. Now it's really important with a mixer, you don't forget about it and leave it for 20 odd minutes because you can overwork bread, especially in the mixer. I like to start it off in the mixer and then finish by hand. And you'll notice it change from lumpy and bumpy to you want it to be smooth and elasticy. I think that's a word. But you can see there, when you pull apart, it's going to kind of break. That's because the gluten hasn't developed enough. Get that going a few more minutes and then finish off by hand. That's been going now for probably about 4 or 5 minutes. Satisfying. If you look at this now, whereas before it broke really quickly, whereas now I can stretch that right out and you can see sunlight. Well, that's actually perfect. Look at that. But I'm not letting the mixer have all of the fun. I'm just going to finish it by hand. And what's really important is a lot of people will add more flour to the side while you're kneading. Don't do that because you've weighed out your measurements and it will change the consistency of the dough. But if you notice, look, it's just smooth and it's just lovely. You can kind of just be at one with the dough. Have a little play with it, stretch it, give it a little slap, work in that gluten as much as possible. I mean, look at it. So we've got a nice, shiny ball. Lightly grease a bowl. A little bit of oil is much better than using flour. It doesn't change the consistency. A little bit over the top. Going to cover that with cling film and leave that in a warm place for about an hour and a half, 2 hours until it's at least doubled in size. An overnight proof in the fridge works really, really nicely. It's a lot colder, so it takes a lot longer for the yeast to kind of grow and for the bread to proof, but it does make for a really, really lovely bread. But we've got the perfect environment for a nice warm place. Just put it around your Gozney for a couple of hours. Don't let it get too hot. Bread is temperamental. If it's too hot, it will prove too quick and then it will collapse in on itself, and we don't want that. We need to look after it. Make sure there's no gaps. You don't want any draft getting in. And also you don't want a skin to form. What we're making here is the filling for babka. Normally you might roll the dough out and sprinkle your bits over the top. However, I'm going to melt down some soft brown sugar and some butter. Then I'm going to stir through my dark chocolate and cocoa powder and then some cinnamon. Cool that down before spreading it over. It makes this like really delicious paste. So we're just going to put that sort of on the mantle on the edge, sort of half in, half out. But you just need to be really careful it doesn't get too hot because it's like this and the temperature does get quite high. Don't do the chocolate straight away because the chocolate can burn, but it can also split, and burnt chocolate stinks, basically. So that might take a few minutes. We've already got like almost a caramel there. So our butter and our sugar's melted. Some really nice heat on there, and it just looks lovely as it is. Dark chocolate, just kind of leave that for 30 seconds. Mix that through. Then we've got our cocoa powder and then cinnamon. Give that a good mix. That's our base, our chocolate mixture that's going to go through the babka. I've got one special ingredient to come. So that can go into the fridge. We want that to cool right down because we want it to be like a spreadable paste. If we put this hot onto the dough, it's going to be quite difficult to use. It will make it really, really warm. It will make it quite bendy and sloppy, and we don't want it to be bendy and sloppy. So that goes into the fridge to cool right down and thicken up. Because this babka is chocolate and cumin, I am going to toast my cumin seeds. It is absolutely delicious and really Moorish. The key with this is less is more. So hang on, I'm just going to grab the world's biggest pan. Look at it. So big. My little cumin seeds go in. So there's about a teaspoon of cumin seeds in there. We don't want very much. We just want that, almost that background flavour to get the chocolate and then that little bit of cumin afterwards. I've just got this massive frying pan and I'm just going to put it in the edge of the dome and just toast those. Don't take your eyes off this. As soon as you start to be able to smell them, they're good to go. Looks even smaller in the
We had like the world's smallest spatula as well.
Oh, a teeny tiny little spatula. Have you got one?
It's porcelain.
So I'm just going to check my cumin seeds and give them a little stir. When you're toasting seeds, you want to get toasted to get the flavours out, but it's a very fine line between them being sort of toasted in that lovely flavour and being burnt and bitter. So we'll just let them cool down. My dough has been proving for a good couple of hours. Oh, look at it. Oh, it smells so good. Perfect. So satisfying. So that's just knocking the air out. We've all flattened back down again. I'm not adding any more flour or oil to the side because we don't want to change the consistency. We've got lovely, lovely dough here. Now I want to roll it to about 45 by 35 centimetres. Oh, it's a really lovely texture and consistency, this bread. And you can see in there those little pulls and almost like webbing of dough means we're gonna get some really nice bread pull when you pull it apart. I love bread. Bread makes everything better. So this is now ready for the filling. We spread on, we sprinkle, we roll, we cut, we twist, we prove. Simple as that. Our filling is now a paste, which is what we want. Dot that all over, spread it out. I've used like a real dark chocolate and then obviously you've got the cocoa in there. It's not overly sweet, but you've still got the sugar in there. So it's like a grown-up chocolate bread. So you want to leave about ½ an inch around the edge that kind of doesn't have any filling on. Don't add too much filling because the filling will spill out. Make sure it's pretty even. Ta-da! And then we've just got our cumin. You essentially want 1 or 2 little seeds kind of in every bite, because otherwise it can be too overpowering and it might be too much. And then you're going to go, Candice, what were you thinking? If it's your favourite spice in the whole wide world, go for it. Now we roll. So you take the long edge and we're just going to roll away from you all the way up. Flip it over. Look at that lovely little swirl. We just want to pinch together. Make sure it's pretty even. And then all we're going to do is we're going to slice down the middle. So really important, where we've squished that end together, you want to leave about 1 inch that's not cut. And we're just going to go all the way along. So just in half. Nice sharp knife, because we want to go all the way through but not all the way through, not to the top. It must stay attached. Roll it out on itself. Look at that. And then all you do is twist it over itself, trying to keep those, what are they? Grooves, open slots, facing up. Layers. Look how pretty that is. Twist it round itself with those layers there. Cut out a sort of circle shape, make it into like a little cone like this, and then open it back out. And it just sits in there. It's essentially just to lift it out, but try not to get it overlapping the top. We don't want it to catch or burn in the oven. A babka, you might think, is normally done in a loaf tin where you kind of fold it back on itself and it's long. I found in the skillet pan in almost like a couronne shape. Works better. It cooks more evenly and a lot quicker. So we just lift up our beautiful babka. We just want to tuck the two ends under. Just look at it, it's a thing of beauty already. So where obviously the filling is a little bit more solid, it's holding its shape. If that's too warm, remember you've got butter in your dough, it's going to soften that dough and it's going to be really hard to kind of move around and pick up because you are moving it. You want it to hold its shape. And if the filling is too warm, it's going to melt the butter in the dough, it's going to melt through, and it's just going to be really hard to work with and hard to move about. This now goes for its second proof for about 45 minutes to an hour, a warm place in a plastic bag or something like that, just till it's risen a little bit more. And if you poke sort of the dough, it springs back. They say double in size, but I'm not fussed with double because it does pop up in the oven. I'd like a little makeshift kind of cling film tent so it doesn't touch it if you haven't got a plastic bag. Ta-da! And if you have a little look, when you give it a little poke, it springs back to life and it's just risen all lovely. We've got this little hole in the middle. So this little hole fills with chocolate and we have like a little pool of chocolate and it's just excellent, it's just delicious. But we want to try and make sure that enough stays in the babka. I'm just going to give it a little egg wash. You wouldn't really want to wash with egg, would you? So this is just one whole egg for my egg wash. You can use egg yolk, you could use a bit of milk if you wanted. It's up to you really. It's got no salt in it. I know if you put salt in it, you get a really nice colour. However, where we're using the dome, I'm going to go without because we don't want it to colour too much. The door is on. We're at about 280, 290. It's going to get a really nice colour on there. I'm so excited about this. This is one of my favourite things to eat. I love bread. Enriched dough is just, oh, it's just brilliant actually. And this is just such a nice little recipe. And like I said, you can fill it with anything you like. And then just to finish off, I'm going to sprinkle over a little bit of sea salt. Dark chocolate and sea salt go so beautifully together. So you just almost want a little bit of salt in every single mouthful. It just raises that chocolate. I'm excited. Right, so I'm going to whack this in the dome with the door on. Very excited. Between 280, 290, we've got no flame because if there's a flame, we're going to get too much colour on that too quickly. Just embers going in so I can put the door back on and just let it cook in that lovely dome oven. See you in about 20 minutes. Don't open it in the first 10 minutes. Don't ruin it. Don't do it.
Yeah, that looks amazing.
I covered it over just for the last little while so that it didn't colour up too much. Ready for the big reveal. Ooh. I mean, look at it. That beautiful colour on there and that chocolate puddle in the middle. It looks incredible. Those swirls. That dough is so springy. It's rich with chocolate, but ever so slightly savoury with that tiny little bit of salt. And then you get that tiny little bit of cumin through it. Oh, look at it. This is my chocolate and cumin babka made in the Gozney dome. For the recipe, go to gozney.com. Please do it. You won't regret it. And you will have a lovely time just like I am. I love working with bread. I love playing with bread. I love eating bread. I just love bread.